Hey guys, welcome back to I think this was called Our Life. I keep messing this up. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue with this story. We're gonna do, I think, the Runaway DLC. So, as a reminder, this is a visual novel type game where you're growing up with a bunch of other kids, and we're picking the memories that our childhood is going to have. So here we go. It was early and you were on your way to the playground. Lizzie planned on joining you there later. You weren't sure what she was busy with right now. Older kid stuff, you imagined. That was okay. What was forefront in your mind was if Cove might be free to come too. As you walked the familiar street, wondering how you might find your neighbor, he appeared right in front of you, almost as if he was a mind reader.
Cove, I was looking for you. Come to the playground with me. No, sorry.
Cove looked strangely serious. It had to be an even bigger deal than whatever mystery thing Lizzie had to do. I'm leaving, Sakura.
What? Where?
He shifted, and your gaze was drawn to the backpack slung over his shoulders. Cove liked to stuff things into his pockets, from what you've seen. But people sometimes carried bags with them. It hadn't been very attention-worthy until now. The pack was decorated with cartoon waves and dolphins. He gripped one of the straps tightly with his good hand.
I just wanted you to know.
Cove didn't glance up to meet your eyes. You started to grow worried. Can I go too? I'm gonna say, let's say, I'll come with you. He looked up at that. You hoped he would agree, but instead he shook his head.
I'll come back though, sometime. I don't know when, but we can do stuff then.
He directed a fragile smile your way. Without another word, Cove turned on his heel and started to walk away. See you when you're done. Okay, let's go after him. He kept going. His focus wasn't on you anymore. What was that about? You watched as his back grew smaller and smaller. Then you realized that you were still standing in the middle of the sidewalk. You thought about your earlier plan of playing at the park. Suddenly, it didn't seem as fun anymore. Not without Cove. But it wasn't like you could force him to play with you. He had things to do. You stayed there. I don't know if that seems a little odd to just stay standing in the sidewalk. I guess, I tend to like the yellow ones more, but let's go. I guess we'll go play at the park, or... It was still sad Cove wouldn't be there, but you wanted to stick with the plans you had on your own. Maybe Cove and his dad were going on a vacation. That had to be it, you reasoned. After all, Cove said he was going to be back. He wasn't moving again. You resolved to spend time with Cove when you saw him next time for sure. After a couple hours at the playground by yourself, it had gotten firmly into afternoon. You were on the swing set with your feet buried in the sand when you spotted Lizzie in the distance. She was rushing over like something was on her tail, chasing her. You knew she would be coming, but was she that excited to get to the park? Instead of nabbing the swing beside yours, Lizzie stopped in front of you. She bent over, balanced her hands on her knees, and panted.
Did you hear?
Hear what? Lizzie bounced back up, her eyes blown wide. You only saw her this worked up when she found the new hiding place of Mom's sugar stash.
It's about Cove!
Cove? Something in the pit of your stomach dropped at hearing his name. You listened intently as Lizzie explained.
I just came out when I saw lots of people gathered around, in the middle of the street. They were talking kind of quietly, so I don't think I was supposed to hear, but that just means it was important. So I snuck up, and I heard everything.
She paused dramatically. Clearly she wanted you to say something. Let's see. What did you hear? Seeing that she had your attention, Lizzie continued.
Cove is missing. He left a piece of paper for Mr. Holden to tell him he was going away and would be gone for a long time, and no one's seen him since. Now they're searching the whole neighborhood. The grown-ups were even saying that if they don't find Cove soon, they'll call the police.
The police? This was horrible. You had seen Cove. You knew he was going someplace. Excuse me. But you had no idea it was like that. Was Cove going to be arrested for running away? You thought you might have to go to jail too for not saying anything and letting him go. Okay, that's very child logic. You glanced back at Lizzie. Should you tell her that you'd known about Cove leaving? Or would it be better to keep that to yourself? Yeah, let's tell her. I don't want to keep that a secret.
Actually, Lizzie, I saw Cove. He told me he was going to go before I went to the park.
What? Really? You nodded seriously.
Ooh, you could be in big trouble if a grown-up found out you didn't tell anybody that Cove was being weird.
She crossed her arms over her chest, sticking her nose in the air.
You're lucky I won't tell on you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lizzie. You were happy that Lizzie had your back. She always did when it came to potential trouble. She just grinned at her own interpretation of her favor. You watched as your sister began to pace in front of you.
I know Mom said Cove was sad about moving here, but running away from home is crazy. Where else is he gonna go anyway?
Let's say I want to find him. Lizzie scrunched her face up, thinking deeply for a moment. Then she nodded and planted her hands on her hips, determined.
I'm gonna look too. You are? Mm-hmm. We could play at the park any day, and the more people there are looking, the quicker someone will find him. Maybe I'll be the one who does. I'm the best at hide and seek after all.
It seemed like Lizzie wanted to look not only because she was concerned about Cove, but also because it was the most interesting thing to happen this week.
Wish me luck!
Before you could say anything, she ran off in the opposite direction from where she came. You were left in the dust in a matter of moments. That was your sister for you, but Lizzie's appearance in this crisis faded to the back of your mind just as quickly. Cove. He told his dad he was leaving to go somewhere by himself. Why did Cove suddenly decide to do that today? Did something bad happen? It was impossible to say for sure. Unfortunately, you had no idea where he could have gone. You thought hard. There were the hills behind your house. He had gone there the first time you met, but someone would have checked there already. They wouldn't need the police for that. Cove must be far away or hiding somewhere if the whole neighborhood was looking for him. You swung back and forth, your lips pursed in contemplation. If I were Cove, where would I go? Lizzie had said Cove was crazy for running away from home, but he never considered Sunset Bird his home, did he? His real home was somewhere else. There was only one place that came to mind that might be important enough for Cove to go off like this. It was a good idea, except how was he going to get there? Could he take a bus? Was he going to walk the whole way? You didn't know what direction he needed to take. But wait, there was only one way he could go. Going down the street just led to the beach, so that couldn't be right. Going to either side would mean he'd get stuck by buildings and fences and big slopes like the one behind your house. That left going up the street. You knew that road. It led into the main part of town and kept going all the way to the city limits. Cove didn't know the area well. You didn't think he'd want to go off that road onto some random other street, which meant if someone followed that path, they might find him somewhere along it. The grown-ups seemed to all be looking in the neighborhood, so I'm gonna go find him myself. There was no time to lose. You rushed to where you had abandoned your flip-flops and slipped them on. They slapped against the sand as you left the playground. You went right up along the main street, keeping an eye out for Cove. No one else had the same idea as you, it seemed, because you were completely alone there. You passed through your whole neighborhood, and then the next one over, and the next. Oh my god, I just left my neighborhood, okay. You hurried down the sidewalk as fast as you could without running. You recalled Lizzie's comment about hide and seek. It really did feel like Cove was hiding from you somewhere and you had to find him. You kept walking. You even called out for Cove a few times, but you didn't see that familiar mop of green hair anywhere. After a while, the sun began to dip out of the sky. It would be dark soon, and there was still no sign of your neighbor. You weren't even in the residential district by this point. You had reached the central part of town. Good God. The area was at once strange and familiar. You'd been there before, of course, but never without your moms close by. They would drive you. Not even Lizzie was allowed to come here by herself. Would Cove have been determined enough to go even further? Cove? You shouted his name a few times, as you had done periodically this whole time, but there was nothing. Maybe he's not going this way. Was he somewhere else? Had someone found him already? Let's keep going. I feel like that would be the thing a child would do. You were able to make it this far. You had to continue the search. With that in mind, you pushed yourself to walk a little faster. People said this was a really tiny town, but to you it felt absolutely gigantic. Eventually, the business part of town ended too. There was no sidewalk anymore, only a long expanse of road. You walked on the grass instead. Oh my god, this is starting to play out like a true crime episode. Onward was the only option. Your journey stubbornly continued. Oh god, now I've gone missing. It's like nighttime. Oh my god, no. Your feet hurt, you were tired, you were on your own, but somehow you had reached the very edge of Sunset Bird. That's what the sign told you. You had lived in Sunset Bird forever, and it was a very rare occasion that you'd see this sign. Most everything in your life happened inside the city limits. The endless road ahead seemed scary in a way. It paralyzed you and finally put an end to your forward momentum. You scanned your surroundings instead of dwelling on that. You deeply hoped you hadn't gone past that sign either. Hey, Cove, where are you? The previous times you'd called his name, there had been no answer. You couldn't be surprised that one didn't come this time either. Until... Sakura? A dark blob just past one of the exit sign's legs shifted. You squinted as it continued to move. The more you stared, the more your eyes adjusted, and the more that dark blob resembled a person. Then you realized just who it was. It was Cove! He was here! You actually found him! He hesitantly got up from where he'd been sitting, as if to make sure he had actually heard something. Then he caught sight of you, his eyes wide behind his glasses. Let's say... I'm so happy you're here. Cove finally blinked as you ran up to him, your feet still aching. How did you find me? You said you were leaving, and you've always wanted to go back home, so I thought you must have come this way. Oh. And that was all he said, after all of this. Maybe he didn't realize how seriously the adults were taking it. Are you okay? Yeah. He didn't look away. His brows were pinched and his shoulders tense. You got the feeling pointing that out wouldn't help matters. Everyone's looking for you. That caught his attention. He frowned at you. They are? Yeah, the whole neighborhood. Lizzie told me they might even call the police. We might get arrested. What? Why? I don't know, because you tried to run away, probably. And I knew, so I'm your, accomplice. Was that the word? You thought so. You'd heard it before on those detective shows Mommy liked to watch. We're not gonna be arrested. Although Cove said that, he looked a little worried over the news. Come on, Cove, let's go home. No. He spoke crossly. You were thirsty and exhausted, and you weren't sure you could keep going back and forth about this. How come? You're stupid. Let's not do that one. How come? Your question caused him to waver but not budge. At first, Cove was quiet. You started to think he wouldn't say anything. Then he spoke. My mom called today to check up on me and stuff. She asked what Sunset Bird was like and how I was doing. It was okay. But when I asked if she'll come here, Mom said she couldn't. I can't go back either. Not right now. She has to move somewhere else first. Cove glared at the ground. His voice cracked as he continued. Why can't I even see her anymore? He used his uncasted arm to rub both of his eyes. I'm gonna go myself. I don't need anyone to take me. That's such a bad idea. And you started to cry. Do you know the directions? You're being selfish. How are you gonna get to your mom's place? That's such a bad idea. Do you know the directions to your old house? You're being selfish. I feel like, oh gosh, I don't know. You're being selfish kind of feels like something I would say if I was a tiny child who had walked for hours, got to the end of the city, was kind of scared, was thirsty and tired. Do you know the let's ask him if he knows. He just wanted to see his mom. Maybe you would have had the idea to run away too if you were Cove, but that doesn't mean it'll work. She's not there. They both left it. She's staying with somebody until she moves somewhere else. Where's her friend's house? Cove was silent for a moment. You'd poked a hole in his perfect plan. Then he shook his head like he was trying to clear it. When he spoke some more, it was mostly to himself. If I don't go see Mom, then she's... Fresh tears glistened in Cove's red-rimmed eyes. He stubbornly tried to blink them away, but they slipped down his cheeks. You frowned at the sight. No matter what, you hated seeing him cry. Then she what? Mom doesn't call that much. And I haven't seen her in so long. Cove hiccuped, wiping his face with the back of his arm. His glasses got shoved up awkwardly as a result. If I don't go, then she'll be gone. She'll forget about me. She wouldn't do that. How do you know? She's your mom. She loves you. Your mom's always said that, so it must be true for Cove's mom, too. Cove sniffled. He seemed conflicted. I'm not sure if that's right. You were at a standstill. And we can't go out there. We've got to go back. Then we'll stay out here. I'm not going to go back. Everything will be okay if we just go home. We can't stay here forever, and we can't go out there. We've got to go back. Everything will be okay if we just go home. Cove's brows furrowed, a scowl appearing on his lips. Nothing's gonna be okay. He turned away from you. You stared at his back. You couldn't just stop. Come on, Cove. After a few minutes of sullen silence, Cove twisted back around. He wouldn't look you in the eye. Okay, let's go. I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want something bad to happen. He was doing it for you? That gave you a warm feeling inside, even if you wished he didn't want to leave in the first place. And that was that. Together, you walked away from the exit sign. Your feet hurt a lot by this point, and you were so tired, but you'd convinced him. You were bringing Cove home, and that's what mattered. On the long walk back, it was only thanks to the occasional street lamp and faint moonlight that you could see in the dark night. You were content to stick close together. Sometimes your drowsy walking caused one of you to almost bump into the other. The back of your hand brushed his. Aw. Cove took my hand. Cove glanced at you sheepishly. His fingers curled around your palm and you held on in response. The two of you continued down the street hand in hand. Oh my god, that's adorable. You wondered if everyone was still looking for Cove. And you too, probably. Do you think they called the police after all? No, probably not. He didn't sound confident, though. You still hoped he was right. You didn't want to go to jail. You weren't sure how much time passed. All you knew was that one moment you were fighting the drooping of your eyelids while shuffling near Cove on the sidewalk, and the next you were snapped back to attention by the blaring beep of a horn. Cove froze. You whipped around to see a car approaching you. It was difficult to make out who it was. The headlights were so blinding. Instead of continuing down the road, the car slowed near where you sat. I didn't read what that said. Oh yeah, it sat. The window rolled down, revealing the face behind the wheel. It was very familiar. "Mom!" She shouted back, and not just because there was some distance between you and her. "Where have you kids been? I've been looking everywhere for you." "The town exit sign." She blinked. "What?" "You know what? Never mind." She stopped looking at you, instead staring hard, straight ahead. Both her hands were gripping the wheel. In turn, Cove gripped your hand tighter. This was hard to face. Guilt ate you up from the inside. "Get in. Let's get you two home." That, at least, made her showing up worth it. Your feet were aching like crazy from all the walking you'd done today. You yanked open the side door, slipped inside the back seat, then clambered over so Cove had enough room to climb into. He followed in wordlessly, tucking his backpack near his feet. Your mom looked at you and Cove from the rearview mirror. "The two of you had us extremely worried. That wasn't a good thing to do. Not at all." Shamefaced, you both nodded as one. "Sorry." I forgot that our last name is Darkovica. "Sorry, Mrs. Darkovica." "Sorry, Mom." She softened immediately. Not enough to actually let it go, though. "You'll have to apologize to everyone else, too." With that, Mom started the car up again and you were off. For the rest of the car ride, no one said anything. You thought all of you were pretty tired. In fact, you must have dozed off at some point because you woke up to the sound of the engine stopping. When you opened your eyes, you realized Cove was looking over at you. He was tense. "We're back." You yawned and got out of the car. Cove came out after, putting his backpack on again. Mom locked the car door and motioned you two towards the house. She opened the front door and let you go in first. Mommy appeared quickly. She must have been waiting nearby. There was a phone in her hand. It worried you, thinking about who she might have been talking to. The tight line of her shoulders relaxed when she saw you and Cove. "Oh, thank goodness, you found both of them." "Yes, I did. They were walking down the main street together." "What were you two doing there this time of night? Do you have any idea how far that is? How unsafe?" You peeked at Cove. He still looked exhausted. His eyes were puffy and there were dried tear tracks down his cheeks. "I wanted to see my mom. Sakura came to get me." Your moms shared a look. You weren't sure what it meant, but they always did that. You wondered if they could read each other's minds, since they were communicating telepathically. You stole a glance around the house. Lizzie wasn't anywhere in sight. Could she be outside somewhere searching for Cove still? Where's Lizzie? Your sister's in her room, fast asleep, the same way you should have been. She came back earlier. She had been out looking for Cove after accidentally finding out he was missing. She tried to pretend otherwise, but she was worried. Said she checked all the hiding places she could think of, but she couldn't find Cove. You and Cove exchanged remorseful glances at that. Mommy noticed the discomfort. "You two must be sleepy. You can sit down wherever you like." Mommy smiled warmly and motioned to the living room. Cove looked up at her, then lumbered over. You followed close behind. The living room wasn't far or separated by a wall, so you heard your moms talking softly. "He wanted to go see his mother. Poor thing. That explains it at least. Still, I'm not sure it excuses it. It was so dangerous to go off into town like that. He's having a hard time right now. You can't expect a child to handle it maturely." "True, it can't be helped. But that's enough of that. We should tell Cliff and the others that he's here before the panic gets out of hand. There could be riots. I'll call, then go to the front to tell everyone's still out there. You keep an eye on the kids. Make sure they don't take any more trips today." "Got it, hun." Cove just sat there on the couch, setting his backpack down beside him. He stared at his hands. "This is so weird." "What is?" "Everyone was looking for me. They all know I tried to leave. I kind of want to run away and not come back this time so I don't have to see them again." "Maybe I should try that." "They'll forgive you." "Maybe." You had more to say to Cove and to ask him, but before you could, the front door opened. Your mom was back, and Mr. Holden was close behind her. He made a beeline for the couch, his gaze trained on his son. "Cove, God, are you all right?" Strands of his hair had fallen out of his ponytail. His eyes were darkened like he'd been crying too.
Cove stared up at his dad, his own eyes wide behind the frames of his glasses. He really hadn't expected it to be such a big deal. I'm okay. Good, that's good. I'm so glad to hear that. He clasped a hand on his son's shoulder, attempting a smile, but the corners of his lips twitched and spasmed as if they wanted to wilt into a frown instead. Cove seemed to have that effect on him. Mr. Holden turned to you, still smiling weakly. I'm so happy you're all right too, Sakura. Then he looked at your moms. Thanks for your help, as always. He laughed pitifully. And I'm very sorry for ruining your afternoon with this. I can't apologize enough. It was no trouble, Cliff, really. It couldn't be helped in a way. Something was bound to happen sometime. Besides, he wasn't the only one who decided it was a good idea to disappear today. Exactly. We're just happy the kids are safe and sound. Not for the first time that day, you recalled your original meeting with Cove. He had run away then, too, only not as far as he had today. Cove must have had a similar thought, because he mumbled an apology. Sorry, Dad. I won't leave anymore. Promise. Some life seemed to return to Mr. Holden thanks to his promise. This time around, his smile was more genuine. That's a relief to hear. Next time you feel like running off, come to me for— Oh, I forgot. I was going to give him a surfer dude voice. Next time you feel like I can't do it. Come to me first, okay? We can talk about it. I'm here for you. Dude, bruh. There we go. Cove nodded. His dad reached out and mussed his hair playfully. Although he made a face, Cove didn't try to dodge the hand as he usually did. Let's go home, bud. I bet you're as tired as I am. Mr. Holden took over carrying Cove's backpack, still clasping a free hand on his son's shoulder when he stood up from the couch. The five of you walked over to the front door so you could see them off. Mr. Holden thanked your moms profusely at least 3 more times before he walked out the door. Cove was made to follow, but he stopped and turned to you before stepping through the threshold. Thanks, Sakura. Good thing I was there. A tiny smile flitted across his lips, there and then gone. I'm gonna hug him. Before he was gone, you reached over to give him a hug goodbye after a hard day. He held you back more tightly than you could have anticipated, and you almost squeaked out a noise. I'm glad you're here. His embrace was tight but brief. He let go as soon as he said what he wanted to. And with that, Cove left. That is adorable. Mommy closed the door behind him. You were practically dead on your feet at that point. Your fatigue must have been obvious because your mom sent you right to bed with no more discussion on what happened that day. Once your head hit the pillow, your eyes slipped closed on their own. Your eyelids were so heavy you couldn't open them again until the next morning. You woke up much more at ease than you had felt when you were last conscious. It was almost like it was a dream, but it definitely wasn't. Your mom's faces when you saw them assured that. After breakfast, you were sat down and your family went over yesterday's events in full. They were none too pleased that you went out to find Cove on your own. As punishment, your moms took away your TV privileges for the next few days. Lizzie was annoyed that she couldn't watch her shows with you around, but she adjusted. Whenever you expressed disappointment, your moms reminded you that they weren't punishing you for no reason. It was dangerous to go out on your own so late, and without telling anyone. You could have gotten hurt, or worse. As upset as you were, you understood. Mr. Holden talked to Cove about what had happened, too. He didn't know what was said exactly, but Mr. Holden forgave Cove immediately. He didn't do anything to punish Cove for running away. He blamed no one but himself for Cove's desire to leave home. You caught your moms discussing it once in hushed tones, frowning at each other. It was pretty serious. There was a word used you hadn't heard before, self-flagellation. I think that means that Cove's dad is beating him up. I haven't heard that word in a really long time either. But there wasn't anything they could do to change Mr. Holden's mind. Your neighbors stopped you and Cove often for the next week or so to express their concerns and disapproval of the event. Oh god. Still, as they always did, days continued to pass. So did talk about Cove running away. Things eventually returned to normal, as they had to. Summer kept going, and you kept having experiences you shared with Cove. Yay! We did it! Yep, save. Awesome! Alright, well there we go. That was a very adorable episode about them running away. I thought that would be really cute, and it really was. I'm going for 100% wholesome goodness. My little girl is going to be just the cutest because I said so. She's going to be happy, peppy, supportive, just, a regular old bestie. And they're soulmates. That's my plan. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate y'all. I might do Fireflies next time or potentially the library. I don't know. Let me know what you guys like. Fireflies or library or any of these, actually, if you want to vote on any of these. I would, make a poll in the community section if I had one. But I don't yet have a community section, and I'm probably not going to unlock one for quite some time unless
the YouTube algorithm decides that it really likes my channel all of a sudden. So, hey, it sort of happened. They pushed one of my videos and it got like 80 views, which for this channel is really good. So, you know, who knows? Maybe. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.